Adam Gorney here, National Signing Day, here with a very special guest, Arch Manning's high school coach, Nelson Stewart, down in New Orleans. Nelson, thanks for coming on. And we don't have to talk about Arch being good. We know he's good. But I want to talk a little bit about what you remember about his recruiting, especially down the stretch. I think you were at like a youth football camp outside, and you had like 5 missed calls from him that he had picked Texas. Down the stretch, did you kind of feel Georgia still had a shot there? How did that really kind of play out in those final days?
Well, it's good to connect with you. It seems like a lifetime ago. And
Yeah,
anyways,
really.
I do think that, as I always reflect, I really did. As I've said so many times that he was pretty well guarded with everything. It felt like, Georgia again was right in there, and that was obviously, Alabama with Pete Golding, who did such a great job with recruitment, and Sark and AJ, and I always said, hey, if you want advice or to talk about it, we can. And we really never did. I just tried to keep his distance. I just wanted him to go through the process. He had gone on his final round of visits. There had been a 7-on-7 here, and Peyton and Eli both come. I remember that well. And at that time, it was a lot of management, more than anything else, just trying to get through it. And they all went to dinner, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And I always remember, because it was our football camp right before the Manning Passing Academy, to where I was going to go the next day. And I was just talking to a little group, and there was 5 missed calls. And as a football coach, I hadn't had 5 missed calls from Arch in a year. So at first you wonder if something was wrong. And no, he got on and told me. I was very surprised. I was obviously super excited for him, and he was able to make the decision before obviously his senior year. And all he said was he was very thankful. And he said, "Don't say anything. I have a way I'm going to announce it." And obviously he did that on Twitter, which ironically he hadn't been a part of. So no, I thought everybody was in it. I remember telling Buster Faulkner and Pete, I both asked me, and I said the same thing. I said, I really don't know what he's going to do. So they really were all in it in my own mind.
Yeah, his one tweet got more followers than me in 15 years of being on Twitter. But I'm definitely jealous of that. But like you said, Pete Golding was involved in it, a lot of guys, but there's so much coaching change that you've seen even since he's been in, but quarterback change too. And I thought this was important. There were 5 5-star quarterbacks in that class. Arch and Nico Yamaliava are still at their same schools. The 3 other ones have transferred. Dante Moore from UCLA to Oregon. Malachi Nelson's transferred twice already. And then Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma to Auburn. Especially with Arch and sitting 2 years, what does that say about him and just his patience and the trust in Sark and the whole thing to be able to do that?
Well, I think that I wish people did that more. I think that as he went in, I remember talking to Sark, and Sark's mind at the time after was to give him time. He didn't put a timetable. Obviously, there's Quinn Ewers, and when kids come from high school, there's so much development. There's the game is so much faster, and things so much quicker. And now with NIL and today's age, everybody just expects things now. I think it speaks to Arch's character, which we've talked about time and time again. In the end, Arch has always been an extremely hard worker. He's always wanted to earn everything. I think that's always been the biggest thing. Certainly his last name carries a lot of weight, but he really just focused on his own development. He never had any sense of entitlement, and I think it shows he went to the right program. That the fact that he was able to go in and learn and grow, and just even watching from the spring game to his highlights, and you could just see the growth of his game. You could see his maturity, and you could see again it's all kind of coming together for him at the right time. You want to be successful, and the worst thing as a coach is to throw someone in for no other reason to just maybe give them a touch or get them for anything other than what's best for the team. And Arch has always been a great teammate, and then also Arch went where he wanted to go. He loves Texas. He graduated earlier. He's the first player that we'd ever had at Newman do that, and I'm just awful proud of him. I remember telling Terry Joseph after he had his big run, I said, I love that kid more then he'll ever know. And I think it's about him. I think his family is amazing, and great parents that have raised him. Um, but just the character piece, all the things we talked about, the willingness to learn. He did everything that was asked of him this year. I thought he did a great job in reserve duty. And, look, patience is a virtue. And I think that patience is about to pay off. And he's going to come in, I think, playing at a very, very high level. And with that same humility, authenticity, and toughness, I think you saw that was the ability to run the football this year. So I think it says everything. And as his old coach, I just couldn't be prouder. And, I wish more kids could do it, but it's awful hard in today's society. But, it feels real good that, he followed that course. And lastly, I give credit to Coach Sark. I think that, he's handled it beautifully, in my opinion. He's developed and handled it well along with AJ Milwee, and just all credit to others. But yeah, it again is a great trait, and I couldn't be prouder.
You mentioned his last name, but he's almost become a first name guy. Like everybody knows
Yeah.
him as Arch, Arch, Arch. He gets in the game, it's 56-7 in the fourth quarter, and that place goes crazy, and it's like expectations going into next season are very, very high. 2 times to the college football playoff, they haven't won it. He's the Heisman front runner in Vegas. I know you're looking at those numbers as closely as I am.
It's crazy.
How do you kind of see him handling that? Not coming in when the game is well in hand or sort of running it at the goal line, something like that, but operating the entire system to the national championship.
I feel really good about it. I feel really good about it because what we just said. I think he said time to learn, to process. Arch is he's very, very smart. He's very complex in terms of his understanding. I think that going back to why he went to Texas, it obviously they recruited him well, but he really, I think, was fascinated by Coach Sark and his understanding of offense. Sark does an unbelievable job of making the most complex schemes seem simple and very coachable and very teachable to players. And I think he's going to do it, beautifully. Obviously, hope he stays healthy. He's just one guy. I think that's the biggest thing. Texas has so many great players. And look, I thought Quinn Ewers had a great year. I understand the spotlight, but look, he does the things well that you want to see in that offense that maybe we couldn't do in high school. I mean, he's as good of a vertical passer as certainly I've ever coached. He makes those off-timing throws. I think he's going to just execute that system, the deep crossers, knocking the top off coverage, his ability to run quick game, his RPO. We're able to pull a lot in high school, but Sark brings the menu to a whole nother level. And Arch is going to study his opponent. He's going to really work with the call sheet on Sark. I know that's big in what they do. And again, just my just learning and my looking at offense and learning what Sark does, I think there's nothing in that he can't do, and I think he can bring a little more. His ability to run. So look, he's prepared. I'm like you, Heisman. That's crazy to me. He's always that kid in my office, but and I don't think he'll look at that either. He really, truly, it's about team success, just as I think it was with Quinn Ewers. It's about the success of those guys. There'll be a lot of hype. It's good they've been in the college playoff. They're used to that, and I just think he's ready. And when I saw him last, and he came through, that you could see there's a maturity about him. The way he walked, he talked, presented himself. He's grown up, and all I can say is prepared. I think that the speed with the Texas wide receivers on the outside, he could obviously knock the top off. He's very accurate throwing in those quick windows. I think his ability to run will bring guys in and makes it. I think it's going to make that offense tough to defend. So again, he is an excellent quarterback. Certainly one of the best, not the best in the country. And I just think it's a perfect offense for his skill set. I think it's a perfect coach and staff with Coach Milwee and everything around him. And I think, like everybody else, I'm just excited for him. I'm excited to see what he can do, and I'm just very, very confident in terms of the way he's worked up to this point.
Xavier Worthy, who beat the NFL combine number in the 40-yard dash, said that Arch would beat him in a 10-yard dash. Is that a little too much credit, or is that athleticism? Is that going to be there?
No, it's going to be there. I remember I used to enjoy in the weight room. I actually would film him a lot, and I actually sent. You remember sending videos to his grandfather, and it wasn't what you would think. It would be, I remember one time he broke the quarterback power clean record that we had, and he had just worked it twice, and he could put 315 on the squat rack, and really do as many as you want. He had the longest broad jump on the team. Look, he was a legitimate 4.44 4.3 type kid. He's got real fast turnover. His stride length is incredible. And, I always remember that we played a game on ESPN. Our range played Berkeley Prep, and they were a little better than us. But, I remember when he ran a power read, he was shot out of a cannon, and people were shocked. But, he said, look, he is, he ran in the 4x1, and he just joined the track team. He wasn't a sprinter. So, no, he is an excellent athlete that just, again, can get yards and punches. And, as he climbs the pocket, sometimes the best thing you do is just take off and go. It's just he's very tough to defend along with his size. So, no, I don't think that's an exaggeration. He's really, really special.
On this last one, don't give me a political answer. So I need an honest answer here.
Got it.
Uncle Eli said no to the Chargers. If Arch had his druthers, which team would he pick if he could go when he goes to the NFL?
That is a great question, and I will go out on a limb and say I kind of think he's one of those guys that would play with who gets him. Really,
Oh,
I do.
come on.
Well, I mean,
Saints,
you go
Cowboys.
through, but I would say this is that I do think that. I guess is a good way to put it along your line. I do think he's the type of player with the attention and everything maybe he's managed. I think it's unlike any player in recruitment. I think, and maybe it's fair to say, in at least the recent modern history. So I do not think that there is a market that may be too big for him, if you know what I mean by that. If you bring up the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think that would be too big. I think that's fair to say. Is that, along those lines? And, see a lot of guys, hey, the big atmosphere, maybe too much. I would say I don't think that's the case. I mean that, I think that's what, I'm excited about, that, Arch Manning has seen more bright lights and cameras and followers and things that, he had more of that by the age of 18 than most people have by the end of their college career. So I do think he'd be prepared for that. Hey, look, you get into, obviously, hey, offensive coaches, the ability to coach quarterbacks, all the things you see, the guys like Harbaugh, things like that. And but I do think a big market like that, I do think he would be just fine. So hopefully that's not too political.
That was on the fringe. I'm going to call you Mayor Nelson Stewart to end this interview.
Well, it's I'd still there's a whole layer again above me, but no, look, I always enjoyed our talks, and it seems like a long time, but I really am excited for him. He's worked his tail off. I really think he's going to do a great job, and no, I think he's just one, and I'll throw the horns up like everybody else, but they all got to work together and do it. But they got a heck of a trigger man that I think is going to be able to get it done for him.
Nelson, thanks for joining us today, man.
You're the man. Thank you so much. Pleasure. Thanks, buddy.